I'm Jenny Don't
And this is Kelly.
from Jenny Don't and the Spurs, and you're listening to Jim and Mike Talk Music.
Well, I got this thing when I mean, I got so mad I could not see. Lost my mind, I lost my head. Now my baby's in it, don't wanna leave. Got that train ticket in his hand, leaving this little baby on the road edge. Well, I don't think anyone wants to love me, 'cause I can't sit still, gotta move my feet. I always talk back, and soon you'll see. Living with me just ain't easy. Get that train ticket in your hand, leaving this little baby on the road. Oh, get your bags, I'll help you pack, toss you out like an old street cat. You'll come crawling back to my door. Come on in, what you crying for? When I do eyes, what I see, now you stay out late, the late night queen. I like to have fun and I like to treat. Come on, man, doesn't get to me. Got that train ticket in his hand, leaving this little baby on the road. No matter what I try, just can't believe.
Today we have two special guests joining us. They are members of the alternative country band Jenny Don't and the Spurs, and they have just released their third album called Fire on the Ridge.
Fire on the Ridge!
They've performed over 500 shows in almost a dozen countries, and let's all welcome to Jim and Mike Talk Music, Jenny and Kelly.
All right. And the crowd goes wild. Very good.
And just so our listeners know, Jenny, you're the lead singer, and I'd say rhythm guitarist. Would we say that?
Yep.
And Kelly, you're the bass player, correct?
Indeed. Yes.
Okay. So where are you in Portland today?
Yep. Yeah.
We're in our living room in Portland.
Okay.
We talked about the time. I think that this will likely be the very first and the very last 9 a.m. musician interview.
Yeah.
I had to get up at the ungodly hour of 9 a.m. this morning. So how long have you two known each other?
About 13 years,
Okay.
just about
Yeah,
12 or 13 years.
this week or next week actually is our 12-year anniversary as a couple.
Oh, okay. So you guys aren't married?
No, we're not married. We still don't know each other very well.
Okay.
We're taking, we don't want to jump the gun.
No, we
Yeah.
might actually get married next year for our 13th year anniversary.
I get it.
Until
Lucky
then, we
13.
just-
Yeah.
We just really like to live in sin.
Yeah.
So, Jenny, I got a question about your name. Jenny Don't, it's very unusual. So I have an idea. I was thinking maybe it's one of those band names where it starts out like the whole sentence and then just cut it short, like Jenny Don't play drums so loudly. Jenny,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Where'd you get that? How about Jenny Don't? Where's that come from?
I always say that it was from growing up. Like I just heard that my whole life. My mom and my dad always like,
Okay.
Jenny, don't. And I was called that for a long time before the band. So Sam and I, the drummer, and I had a more like punk band called Don't. And that came because we were hanging out trying to think of band names. That's like the hardest thing. That's harder than writing the music itself is figuring out the band name. And he said, why don't we just call it Don't? Okay, yeah, that works. And then when we started the Spurs, we were like kind of going into it with the idea, like maybe we'll have it where we'll have a rotating cast just depending on who's available. We'll just book shows and whoever can do it will come play with us.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
we quickly learned that we don't like that style.
Mhm.
That doesn't work. It's a pain in the ass. So
Yeah, like what if you're
we-
planning on a show and you don't have a drummer? Or, yeah.
yeah, it was just like so much anxiety. And also like, what if they don't know the songs the way you want them to? And so
Mhm.
we started with just Jenny Don't and the Spurs and continue with that, but it started getting very confusing and people were having a very hard time knowing which band was which, and Don't stuff was showing up on the Spurs page. And we've learned too that Don't was like the worst band name to be able to find your band.
Not very positive. I'm kidding.
No, yeah. You can't Google really. You can't Google search Don't and
Oh
real
man,
mess
that would be bad.
Yeah.
So did you have you had brothers and sisters? This might get personal, but you had brothers and sisters that were not so in the don't mode.
yeah.
So you were Jenny
all
Don't.
kind we're all kind of bad kids. I think I was the worst though. So yeah,
So
I
let's-
have an older sister, a younger brother, and two half brothers.
Okay, yeah.
So let's get into the new album, Fire on the Ridge.
Fire on the Ridge.
Okay.
That's good. That's what we do.
I read that the album was delayed. Something kind of horrific happened while in the middle of recording. You had you lost your voice.
Bunch of horrific things happened.
You had throat surgery.
Yep. Yeah, that's kind of started before we were recording, but we were hoping that we would just be able to get through it and deal with it after all the stuff. I was starting to get hoarse a lot, and sometimes, after a show or whatever, we'll wake up and be a little hoarse or scratchy just from kind of partying, but then it was just like not going away, and it was like different. If you lose your voice, if you're screaming at a show, it just felt different. This felt like I just didn't have a voice anyways, and I couldn't talk very loud, and we'd go out and be loud somewhere and be like, Kelly, can you order me some food? And everybody was like, what? And I like couldn't get any.
Kind of frightening that, for a singer to think that you may not be able to sing anymore.
Yeah. And then, luckily the surgery wasn't as bad of a recovery and as I thought at first that it was going to be. So, but yeah, at that point I was like, oh my gosh. And what if they do surgery and my voice has changed or altered or doesn't come back or I can't sing. Yeah. Like California Cowboy. It got to the point, like we didn't play that live because I couldn't even sing it at all. Like the register, it just couldn't get to. So we went to record and we were like, okay, we're just going to knock this out. If it sounds bad, we'll just deal with it and move on and make another record afterwards. But we were doing the vocals. We had all the parts done and Kelly was listening. And our working relationship with John, we weren't super familiar with each other yet.
John is the record label owner and the owner of the studio and the producer engineer. So
we
John
of all trades.
But we weren't at that level yet where he could say like, hey, your vocals aren't really up to snuff of how we would expect. But Kelly was, and he goes, hey, we thought we would be able to get through on this, but this is really bad. So
that's tough.
It was discouraging. Yeah, it was hard to make the call to postpone, but ultimately it was a good decision because the end result was much better. But then we also had beyond the vocal cord surgery, we had an exploding water heater that flooded the studio, had to break everything apart. We had a kitchen fire where the dog got on the stove and clicked the knobs and it turned a pizza box into smoke.
This was all at the studio.
Yeah.
And then we also had the lost hard drive crash that lost all of the first recordings that we did anyways. So even if I had knocked those vocals out, they were gone.
We had recorded the entire album and it just all disappeared. And when the hard drive crashed, so we had to start over and record the entire thing. That was a blessing in disguise. Because the second time around was a lot better than the first time around.
Yeah, and it sounds good. Jim and I have listened to it repeatedly, and it all sounds great. Yeah.
Yeah, I love this album.
Mm-hmm. I think let's talk a little bit about it.
So let's go through a couple songs on the new album, see if you can tell us anything about the song. First, we'll start with California Cowboy. So this song has I think a 60s feel to it. And I don't know, for some reason I could hear Blondie singing this.
Yeah.
Like Debbie Harry.
He pictured Debbie Harry.
Yeah.
You and her together. Yeah, there you go.
Is there anything you can tell us about the song?
That'd be great. Yeah, I started the idea of that song actually, like we had played some shows in California and there was this guy that we kept encountering that was just a real dick. And so I started the song to be a little bit more petty because I was like, oh, that fucking poser, like, God. Yeah. And we had to keep encountering him. And it was just like, God, like this guy.
He was one of these cowboy hat hipsters.
Yeah. I was going to ask if he had the hat on. He must have. Yeah.
Yeah, and he wasn't like he wasn't a hick or anything. He wasn't like a real cowboy. He was like an LA hipster that was cosplaying like a Western guy.
Yeah. So crazy.
He kind of became our tour joke. He was the California cowboy.
I mean, he probably never met even a horse in person.
Yeah.
Ride a horse, right?
No, I mean, despite that, he was full of bullshit.
Somehow. You had that part of it. Yeah.
What I did.
He's probably listening. Initially, he's probably listening in right now, and this is a song for you.
Yeah.
I hope so. There's probably a dozen people out there being like,
you want to shout out his name?
Man, I hope
no.
Yeah.
Nice to
Don't.
Yeah. But I didn't, the song was a little more catty and mean, but I was like, oh, I don't want to give him that much credit. I don't really want to have a whole song about this guy. Like, oh, he was annoying enough. So then I started going more towards the like, we'll have it be more like a longing about a California love, going in that direction.
Yeah.
So Foolish Lies. I don't know. I hear kind of a Hawaiian sound.
That'd be the steel guitar.
Yeah. I was going to ask. Yeah.
And then I love your do-do-do da-doos. And
do-do-do-da-do. So who's playing that steel? Who's playing that steel guitar?
That's our guitar player, Christopher March. He does all the strings that aren't the bass or the rhythm guitar. So
he's a really good guitarist.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah, he's great.
He jumped on with us a couple years ago to fill in for a tour when our the guitar player that was on the second album couldn't make the tour anymore and just realized touring life wasn't for him. So Christopher jumped in the van and we've been together ever since.
Yeah, we kind of abducted him and threw him in the van, and he's we haven't let him go since.
Yeah.
That's been about 5 years, I guess, 4 years.
Yeah.
That's a long time. That's good. Yeah. Holding on to somebody.
And then we have Train Ticket, which is definitely rockabilly sounding.
Yeah.
I love this song because it's fast paced. I know this is a song you wrote, but are you going to remember all the lyrics
at rapper speed?
Play it live.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I still remember some of the places I was at when I was writing the lyrics, because when we start writing, till the song's finished, it's like constant loop, like trying to figure out all the ways that the verses could work together. And we were at Home Depot, and remember we were sitting in the
always
truck.
a great catalyst for inspiration.
Yes.
Whenever if we get right, go to Home Depot. It's just
the smell of raw wood. Yeah.
Exactly.
But I know I was getting on his nerves because I kept saying like, "Oh, how about this version?" or "How about this verse?" and like saying things over and over. And he's like, "Oh my God, just finish it already, so I don't have to keep hearing it."
Right, but you're the person in line that's entertaining. When I'm at Lowe's and Home Depot, and you do the, you're looking around at the 5-hour energy drink, and but you'd be the entertainment in the line. That would be good.
Yeah,
I can picture that.
Yeah.
Next one, Friday Night.
There's a party, but I'm staying in. I just can't bear to go. I think tonight that I'd rather stay home. It's Friday night again. I'll be here with what might have been if I had gone to let you know. I dream
It's my favorite one on the album. I really like Friday Night and California Cowboy. They're my two favorites. Yeah. What do you think? What can you say about Friday Night? Writing it or anything?
Yeah, this one was inspired kind of by the Patsy Cline style songs,
Yes, yes. I hear that.
Like
That's what he was saying.
I was thinking of like the same chord progression, kind of as like, yeah, like I was wrong, so wrong. And so, and I like the idea of somebody sitting at home knowing that there's all this action going out and they really want to be there, but they're better off staying at home because they'll probably make a fool of themselves. Or, they don't want to face the rejection. And I just like that writing idea of like, I don't know, 50s party and
a lot of our songs musically and lyrically a lot of them are inspired by the song traditions that we enjoy more than a specific topic. A lot of times we're like, wow, let's come up with kind of a melancholy sort of love lost sort of theme.
Right.
Well, it's like the richest emotion. It's like one that everybody can relate to.
Right.
So,
and personally, for me, I like that. And you notice my selections there of California Cowboy and Friday Night. I enjoy that. It feeds me a little bit more than the fast pace.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's great stuff. And one of my favorite things about Patsy Cline was it seemed like most of her songs she was lamenting some kind of love gone wrong, and the depth of songwriting there is really inspirational.
Right. Let me tell you two quick Patsy Cline stories. One is I worked down in the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia. She's from Winchester, and I worked with her great niece for a little while there in Newmarket. And then another story is where my kids went to school, Elkton, just between over the mountain would be Charlottesville, and right there's Harrisonburg and Elkton. And the locals said, yeah, that was Patsy Cline's grandparents' house. And there's this little white house and a shed, and then they built a huge new high school right there. But whenever I pick up my kids, all high school, I'm picturing a 10-year-old Patsy Cline visiting Grandpa, going in the fields that where the school was now was just fields, and in the little shed, I can tell how old that shed is and the house. And I'm picturing this little 10-year-old Patsy Cline running around that area right there near Elkton. That was pretty cool.
That's great. And I listened to so much Patsy Cline, and when I had crushes on people, or like when a crush didn't work out or whatever, and that stuff, it just was like a knife to the heart. Like I know what you're saying. I was wrong.
Yeah.
Jenny, do you and Kelly write the songs solely, like the lyrics, or is it a whole band effort?
She writes most of them, like probably 95% of the music and lyrics.
Okay.
And then I help out with
encourage me to keep them.
Or sometimes there's
I'll get stuck sometimes.
Or if we develop a song, the layout of a song, I'll help out with lyrics sometimes, or a suggested arrangement. She'll come to the table with a song, and a lot of times at practice I'll help with the arrangement, but she does easily 95+% of everything.
Wow.
It's good that you two are together most of the time, and like especially with quarantine, you might not have seen the other bandmates, but you could work on stuff.
For a while we didn't. It was kind of rough, and our guitar player Christopher is he's pretty self-contained, so I think he just kind of hung out and did solo recording projects on his computer and noodled around with his guitar. Our drummer kind of goes stir crazy if he's not staying active, so we tried to get him back in the saddle as soon as we could.
But he's older, so we were also kind of concerned when in the early time, when it was still like, what's going on? How serious is this? And we didn't want to get him sick.
We were pretty worried.
Sick or retired,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But so with songwriting though, it's great. Kelly's really good at encourage, because I'll come up with a list of ideas or song melodies and stuff, and I don't always have as good of a vision of the song further with the full band as he does. Like I'm like, oh, this one sounds a little corny, or I don't know, this sounds whatever. And Like, no, that's great. Like, we could build on this. Let's keep it. And I'll hate it for a while until all the guys start doing their thing on it. And then oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Cool. I'm glad that you made us. Cause I'll be like, oh, I'm going to throw this one away. This is a funny song. And then it becomes one of our favorite ones.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Christopher has some songwriting credits on this album too, because he had some good ideas just after the song was already together. Like, how about we go to this chord instead? And I feel like that is still songwriting in itself. So give credits for that too.
Yeah, influences the direction of the song and how interesting it is, throwing in, this extra chord in here. Yeah, you get a feel. Yeah.
Jenny and I, we own our house, and we have a practice room in the basement, and that's where the band practices. We also, we've got guitars in literally every room of the house. And if she's struck by inspiration, she can, just pick up a guitar.
Just roll out of bed and pick up the guitar.
And
I'll just record it on my phone, like a little, whatever those audio recorder just apps.
Yeah, if you get an idea.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cobble something together around here, and then the trick is just remembering it for the next practice, and then
right. So Jenny, you mentioned Patsy Cline. What are some other influences you might have that you tap for inspiration?
I love Wanda Jackson. I kind of like, even Patsy Cline, I feel like sometimes they're like the real cliche, like everybody in Western's like Patsy Cline, but it's true. Like those are some of the best ones. So, and I love Elvis Presley, but I also really like the Gun Club. I like a lot of like Jeffrey Lee Pierce's stuff because I feel like that's a good mix of punk rock with Western influence, and kind of where it started melding some of the Spurs ideas. I also really like, Kelly played with Pierce Darrows, but Fred Cole's got a great catalog of songwriting with Dead Moon and the Rats and the Range Rats. And so I try to listen to a lot of that stuff for inspiration because he has a great style of verse, chorus, with hooks and keeping it simple with melodies. So I try to listen to a lot of stuff like that to where you can write the song, keep it under 3 minutes and get everything across.
We tend to take the less or kind of approach, like Dead Moon, or even AC/DC that's just straight up blues rock. Motorhead or any of that stuff. It's just good.
Straightforward.
Straightforward. Clean and right out
the
there.
50s rockabilly.
Yeah.
All that old classic rockabilly. Johnny Bond's rockabilly years, or the early Elvis stuff, or Carl Perkins, Jerry Lee Lewis, all that stuff. It was just 2 parts, maybe 3.
Yeah.
And
I love how they all fit together.
Great.
Like listening to how the chorus, bridge, and the verse all form together to tell a story a little bit too. Where it's like you can realize what they're saying, and it's fun. I really like that.
Yeah.
I just love how I just love how people are still making this music. It's not.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not. You're not going to hear about someone being on their cell phone, or it takes.
Going back to the basic topics. Yeah.
Right. I just picture you guys watching a lot of John Wayne movies and Clint Eastwood westerns. I don't know, to get in the.
I love old western.
You get in the mood to write lyrics like.
Go ahead, Kelly.
Oh yeah, exactly. I'll sit home. She does one of her jobs is managing a bar and tending bars. So I have a lot of evenings here after I get off work, and I'm hanging out alone. So I get a lot of inspiration from old westerns, or like Roger Corman biker movies. Just the whole spirit of the the Wild West, whether it's through the lens of Hollywood's biker culture in the 60s, or the the Italian take on the Wild West.
Either way, it's rough and tough. It's hardcore either way. You got to be tough, right?
Yeah, and it's also wide open spaces, and the soundtracks to those movies and that imagery. it is really inspirational, and that's one of the best things about being able to play this kind of music, is we can sort of try and take that imagery and
transpose it.
Also the musical aspects of people like Morricone, or I don't know, anyone else who makes sort of sparse, windswept musical landscape, and we can try and do what we can to emulate that sort of thing when we're not Patsy Cline.
And that comes through, Fire on the Ridge right away, that song, starting it off. So the album starts off with that song, I believe. Is that true?
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So jumping over to Portland in general, what are you, you're in Portland now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have my wife's extended family, her cousin and wife came over from Portland all the way to the Shenandoah Valley, Virginia, and great people. They loved Portland. They missed it. They actually mourned leaving there, but Shenandoah Valley is beautiful, of course. I was there 25 years. But what about Portland? What can you say about the music scene, or what do you love about Portland?
Portland has, I'm a Portland native. Actually, Sam and I are the drummer. We're the Portland natives. And
I moved here in 2008.
And I don't know, there's a rich musical history in Portland that goes back for as long as people have been here.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it's great. Like I've been involved in the Portland music scene since the late 80s, and Sam, our drummer, he's been playing music here since the early 70s. He's he's the oldest one in the band. He's 64 now.
Yeah, he was in the Wipers and Palm Beach and some other pretty influential Portland bands.
Old Portland bands. That,
yeah.
So I don't know.
And the city is, it's known as being progressive in a lot of ways.
I skipped Seattle when I moved here because of the music scene. I like the Portland music scene. It seemed like it was a little bit, Seattle's great. It's just different. In Portland, a lot of the genres, everybody hangs out together. Like we had Jerry A from Poison Idea do a Lee Hazelwood song with us on our first LP, so the king of hardcore is singing on a Western album. I like people here are open for that.
There's a lot of crossover between the
crossover.
Cultures.
Thank you.
Here.
Right.
And Portland's a really good place. It's always been pretty hospitable to music. There's always been there's been dry periods over the years, but there is a good scene for venues, and it's great.
And I think
it's gotten a lot more expensive over the years, which is kind of a drag, which makes it harder to be creative. I think I was talking to someone who sort of put the idea out that one of the things that made Portland a very friendly place to creative musicians was the fact that there were a lot of large houses here for really cheap, and they were these old turn of the century houses that were falling apart, but you could get 4 or 5 friends together and get this big house for $500 a month, and there'd be a giant basement. And so, your bands could play in the basement and practice. And I've been to places where that's just not possible. I've been to Japan.
Yeah. If you go no basements.
Oh, Florida.
There's no place to play. I've toured Japan a couple times, and when you play, at least in the punk rock scene, if you play a show in Tokyo or Osaka or somewhere, you get 15 bands on every bill because, that's their only chance to play, whether it's practicing or playing live. They all want to come, and the sound checks are 6 hours long because that's their practice. Or New York City.
I get it.
New York City, where bands have to rent studios by the hour to go practice. And
so it doesn't lend itself to much creativity.
It's great that bands can
expensive. New York City.
It's great that bands can stay productive in that environment, but we were lucky here and in Seattle and a lot of places that had cheap houses with big basements and understanding neighbors.
What about basements where you are? Is that a thing?
Yeah, I have a full finished basement.
Yeah.
I know in Florida, I had friends who moved to Florida, and I don't think there's any basement.
No, they don't have basements. Yeah, there's certain places that aren't going to be productive like that because there's, plus it's hot.
Well, we used to have the recording, I call it studio, in the basement. Our house, it's so cold down there, even with the air conditioning.
Yeah. Well, your family likes it cold.
We moved up 2 floors now, but I have a nice finished basement down there. I'm kind of intrigued that you both started out in punk bands, and now you're in a country band.
Yeah, so so just where Jim and I come from, punk to new wave to alternative, actually having a name, a moniker there. Yeah, just seeing that progression. So tell us about that. Tell us about your experience with punk, or where was that?
I've always listened to a wide variety of styles musically. And, when I was younger, I feel like a lot of the music that I made was pretty orthodox punk rock, hardcore stuff. And there weren't a lot of other people around that I was friends with in the music community that wanted to kind of branch out and make other styles. And by other styles, it's not like I wanted to get super experimental with things because,
band.
And the people aren't, if you're too experimental, people aren't listening. They're not going to listen to it. I mean.
Yeah. And I've always liked roots music of any kind, and sort of, I don't know, I guess about 15 years ago, I started, I was lucky enough to hook up with some people and we had a garage rock band, which was cool because I'd always wanted to play garage rock, but it was really hard to find other people in my music community that were willing to do that sort of thing.
Yeah, they only wanted to play punk, probably.
Yeah.
They didn't want to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was fine. I mean, I kept busy for many years, and I toured a lot, and I put out a lot of records. So it's not like I was spinning my wheels and unable to play, but it was great to kind of be able to branch out and play some other styles, and garage and surf and country and things like that are great. I don't see that big of a difference stylistically or
it's all like kind of the same
or emotionally between all these styles. They're they share the emotional aspects of what you're trying to convey musically spring largely from the same places.
And for me too, it wasn't either or. I was doing the Spurs. It just wasn't the Spurs yet. At the same time, like consecutively with Don't, like the punk band. I just was doing things at restaurants, like solo, playing acoustic guitar, playing songs. I worked at like a crappy dive bar, and every year they'd have this golf tournament party. And every year for a few years, I played like Spurs songs that are on the first album that I had written that I would just play around town because it was fun. And that's what my writing style has always been. Even in the punk band, like we wrote that stuff collaboratively, but I was still writing my own songs on the side. And then Sam would play with me. He'd play guitar, and we always said we were the 2 worst guitar players in Portland playing the show. And we'd go and play these restaurants. And then when Kelly was playing with Pierce Darrows, we were like, gosh, we want to play together in a band, because we were playing our shows together in separate bands. And so I was like, well, let's play the songs that I have. And then so that just is kind of how the Spurs ended up happening. Fred and Toody and Pierce Darrows were like, hey, you guys are doing this project, you're going to open for us because we're going to do a duo set. And we're like, well, we're not really a band yet, we're just talking about doing it for fun. And they were like, well, get your shit together because you're playing, you're booked already. And then it just kind of led from there. It was easier to book shows as the Spurs, and I write a lot more. Like I can write songs faster with the Spurs too. So there's just a lot more material, and it's been easier. And so it just kind of superseded all the other bands that we were doing. So
I mean, it's not like we made an abrupt left turn here. we were doing our other bands concurrently to the Spurs. The Spurs we played our first show as Jenny Don't and the Spurs in spring of 2011 or 12. And it's just that, like, we've always, in the Portland tradition, we've always been in, a bunch of bands. And over the years, our other bands sort of just fell apart or stopped or whatever. And
Fade away.
I mean, I was yeah, I was playing and touring with one of my punk rock bands, a band called the Problems, up until late 2017. And, I was on the road with them 3 or 4 months out of the year. And then when that band ended, it's just like, this is sort of the last band standing.
Yeah.
So it's not like we just, quit our bands and decided to put on cowboy hats or
right.
Like
It's a progression. It's a normal progression. Yeah.
I'm assuming you don't play the same venues that the punk bands.
Sometimes, yeah.
Well, if they were like a hardcore, I wanted to ask about the band Defiance that you were in. Was that hardcore punk?
No, it was more, within the punk scene, as with any other music scene or culture, there's a lot of subtleties when it comes to stylistic labels. And I'd say when we started, we were very heavily influenced by old British punk bands.
Okay.
So there's a genre within the punk scene called street punk, and that term hadn't been used very widely when Defiance started in the early 90s, but it's sort of like what's called street punk now is probably the closest that we'd fit. We were kind of oi, anarcho, UK style punk rock.
Okay.
We had the big hair and spiky jackets and all that.
All right.
Stuff.
Wow.
I was in the band from its inception, and then for the first couple records and several years, and then I quit and I stayed out of the band did other bands for about 10 years, and I rejoined Defiance in, I guess 2005, and stuck around until the band sort of fizzled out. I guess I probably played my last show with them in 2015 or 16, I guess. So I don't know. I'm too busy with other stuff.
Yeah, they were doing some shows, but it was hard because they'd be like, hey, we're going to play this thing. And it's like once every 6 months, and we're always on tour. And it
just didn't work out. We towards the end, we were just kind of a festival band. We get flown around to festivals here and there. And a lot of times I just didn't jive with my touring schedule with the bands that I was in that were busy bands.
What you were talking about too, about the venue crossover, if the Spurs play some of the like punk clubs. What was the show we played in Seattle where there was at the Fun House, the new Fun House?
Oh yeah, we played there's a venue, I think it's called El Corazon.
Oh yeah, El Corazon in Seattle.
Yeah, it's gone through a lot of names. It was off ramp for a long time. And we played, it was funny because we had this country show in the bar venue there, and then next door in the big venue was another band that I used to play with sometimes. With Defiance, we used to play with these guys. It's an LA street punk band called Total Chaos. And, they're full on spiky jackets and charged hair and mohawks and stuff. And the crowd is too.
It was so fun because the country bands were kind of like, I don't know if this show's going to work. And
yeah, it's cool because I knew a bunch of these guys from that scene, and we kind of ran into each other at the bar. We're like, whoa, hey, it's you. I'm like, oh, it's you. And so they played the show, and then by the time we got on stage, they were kind of done, and a bunch of their crowd and them and a bunch of the guys from the band came over and were watching our show, and it was really fun because we're playing this like country rockabilly stuff, and there's all these like studded jacket punks out there drinking beer.
That shows an open mind.
It wasn't like in West Side Story, the sharks and the jets.
No fighting there.
Well, in Europe, sometimes like punks will come to our shows because they've seen us at other bands or they know Kelly and Sam's history musically. Yeah. They're like, country show, like, what is this? What are you guys doing? And then by the end of the night, even one guy was like wearing my cowboy hat or something, running around just being like, I'm not a punk anymore, I'm a cowboy.
Right.
And so I think people were like the gateway Western band for punks to be like, do I like this? Okay, yeah, this is fun.
Gateway country band. I'm the gateway country band for y'all. So, it's interesting to look at country because there's still a lot of people that Jim and I relate to that, it's very much cut and dried. It's rock and roll, it's country. You see, and you know the history of country from classic country to new country a decade ago, sounding more like rock and roll, sounding more like soft rock, the new country. And then so many other things coming up. So, it's just great for our show to get our listeners to hear the word country, because we do such a wide range. So any other thoughts on the state of the current state of country? Because that label, you're taking it with you. It's part of you. It's wide open. There's wide open with country.
I personally, and I think I can speak for some of the other people in the band, we've never really been interested in contemporary music in any genre to a large extent, with punk rock, what I listen to is generally, 90% stuff that was recorded before 1985. With the country stuff, I mean, we draw from our influences come largely from bands that were current in the 60s and the late 50s. That's sort of our milieu. Personally, a lot of country bands lost it for me in the late 70s. And and these days, I mean, I don't want to disparage anyone's music.
Ever since Achy Breaky Heart, it's gone downhill.
I mean,
well, it's real pop.
It's
virtually it's soft rock pop.
Is virtually indistinguishable from any other kind of pop music.
Right.
It's just if you play pop music and you sing with a southern drawl, you're considered country. And, I mean,
exactly.
Fine. If people like that's totally cool. I'm not going to give anyone shit.
And we know there's a whole subculture of people, across the nation that's their thing. Yeah, exactly what you described. Yeah.
It's just not us. We're never going to fit into that.
It was so weird.
Of course not.
We played somewhere and the people at the bar were like, what do you call this music that you're playing? And we're like, I don't know, they call it like Western or country. And they're like, no, that's not country. And then they're like playing country on the radio and it was like hip hop, and I was like, that's what they think is country. And they think what we're doing is not country, which is like so weird. I was like, it's like, where are we?
Living in categories that were created, 2 decades ago and still living in those categories from 20 years ago, right?
By the music industry largely.
Yeah. And that's okay. Like Kelly's saying, like that what they like is good and that works for them. So it's kind of funny just to say like country and everybody has a different idea of what country is.
But there's so many currents with like I said with the punk rock labels. It's same with country music.
There's so many offshoots of country though, because I noticed your band the last album was in the genre of alternative country.
They'll just people will put wherever they want to put us. That's fine. We don't care. We'll just play what we play, and people can label it whatever they want.
Yeah, one type I like because I don't like the new country except it's called outlaw country.
Yeah,
named it Nikki Lane. I like her. Sarah Shook and the Disarmers.
Yep.
Stuff like that.
That's cool.
Yeah. Although I like that you
got an edge to it.
Women, because I always think outlaw country is just like heavy set guys with beards.
Get some women up there in that.
Yeah. I mean, originally that was all, I don't know, Merle Haggard and Johnny Paycheck and these, guys who had gone to prison, that was outlaw country.
Yeah. And classic country. Yeah.
I like that. I like that stuff too. That's, it's great.
I like somebody wrote this new album referred to us as surfabilly.
Wow, you got the surf in there.
Nice.
Surfing with the cowboy hat, waterproof cowboy hats.
Yeah, it's funny. People hear that. Like we've gotten the surf thing a bunch from people at shows. Like, wow, you guys, it's like country, and it's like we don't, none of this is intentional. We don't sit down and like we're going to write a country song or something.
Yeah.
It just comes out, and I guess we have influences that are across the board. I mean, I'm a fanatic record collector. I've got probably about 10,000 records in the house.
Wow.
And
Wow.
genres across the board. And surf is an important genre for both of us, actually everyone in the band.
I love music.
It's great. So it's natural that some of that would show through. It's like we try and disguise these things, but it's like we don't try, but we don't like flaunt this stuff. It's like it comes out. It's like you can move away from a region in the country or the world, but at some point your accent's going to show through.
I'm picturing the next album. I'm picturing the next album cover. I see Jenny looking to her left with a cowboy hat on, holding a surfboard. Yeah.
And it will be called Jenny Don't Surf.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Put some saddles on the surfboards. Like a surf rodeo.
Yeah.
There's our next record. Surf rodeo.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
So there's one song I noticed. It's on the first album that I thought was really unique. It's called Lady Bird.
Well, that's a Lee Hazelwood cover.
Okay.
And that's the one with Jerry A. from singing.
It was.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, because I didn't expect that voice.
Yeah. So tell us about that.
Because I think it's a cross between like Tom Waits and Wolfman Jack or something going on there.
So I don't know if you guys, maybe some of your listeners or you guys are familiar with a classic Portland punk rock band called Poison Idea. They've been around since about 1980, and they're largely, they were large, but they're kings of punk. Like they're just one of those bands in the punk scene that have been around forever, and everyone loves them.
Super influential.
Yeah, super influential. I mean, Pantera covered one of their songs, but their singer Jerry, he's an old friend of ours, and we've always loved Lee Hazelwood and Nancy Sinatra, so we've always kind of wanted to cover something of theirs, and we did Summer Wine for a while. For the record, we thought, well, let's try Lady Bird, and let's invite Jerry to do counterpoint with Jenny on that, and it worked out really well. I mean, he was cool enough to come in and really fun, and he was messing around.
Voice.
With the voice.
Yeah,
style.
his voice is cool.
Yeah. But I'd strongly recommend checking out Poison Idea. They're a great band, and they epitomize Portland punk rock.
Yeah.
And that's 80s, late 80s, 90s, or when is that?
Well, they just played their last show about a year and a half ago, but they were around in the 80s and the 90s, and they've broken up periodically, but the bulk of their material came out in the 80s and the 90s.
Feel the Darkness is my favorite.
Yeah, they have a great record called Feel the Darkness that came out in 1990 or 91, and it's
My favorite.
It's great.
Yeah, we'll check it out.
So Jenny, let's talk about your outfits.
Oh yeah.
Now, do you make these from scratch, or do you buy the dress?
Nope, I go to the fabric store and feel what fabric I think might be a good dress. I'm still not the best at like knowing exactly what fabric would work the best. I just kind of go look at, oh, that's a good color, grab the fabric and start building. I'm out of my mind. I'm trying to finish one more dress before the store. And so our living room right now just has like cuttings and all kinds of stuff all over the place.
She does this every time we go on tour.
I just need one more.
Yeah,
I just need one more dress.
Yeah. And that's the creativity coming out, the songwriting, the playing, the performing, and then the outfits as well. That's creative. That's great.
Thanks. Yeah, we want to look visually, we want to look visually just as good as we sound, and we want to stick out in people's minds. And I also have a lot of fun building it. And I feel like people now coming to our shows have a lot of fun knowing that they can dress up and they're not going to like stick out, because it's like, we're all getting dressed up. We're going to a party, and it's like worth dressing up for.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great concept. I like that idea. Yeah.
the only reason I started making my own outfits was, well, I could never find anything that fit right. Two, I could never afford anything that was vintage looking like that. And my sister got married and wanted me to wear like this mustard yellow dress, and I couldn't find one anywhere, but I had a pattern for like a simple, just easy pattern to sew. And so that was my first one that I did. And it was not as hard as I expected. So, you know, with YouTube now, you can watch a YouTube tutorial for anything. And so I just started doing that and made that outfit. And I told Kelly, I was like, I want to try and make one for the band and like decorate it like a nudie suit. And so I used felt and put them all together. And
I mean, there's no way that any of us could actually afford a real nudie suit. That's so wildly out of our budget.
Yeah.
You know? So we just, and that's where a lot of this stuff, we try and do as much stuff as we can ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of that comes from, is we just can't afford to get the real stuff. We have to make it ourselves.
But then it's kind of fun because I feel like my dresses that I make are a little bit more to my liking anyway. So I can make them how I want them to fit.
Right.
And the suit jackets, I started decorating. Those ones I bought the suit jacket first and then just decorated those. But I
don't think those have showed up in any pictures yet.
Yeah, but, I made Sam a pretty cool.
She made us jackets. So.
Oh, cool!
Yeah, great.
Maybe those.
To match. Are they the jackets each similar?
Oh, they don't match each other. They're each personalized to the guys. Sam's is.
It's got some sticks on it.
Yeah, he's got drumsticks on his jacket lapel. Right.
Yeah. We're a regular little craft circle around here. we're still it's a lead up to a tour, so you can't really tell from the screen angle here. But our living room is a
disaster.
Is a nightmare of.
I don't see the floor.
Fine.
He was just saying that we made a bunch of stuff. You know, we've got a disasters on our living room.
It must feel great though to start doing live shows. I saw you did a record release a couple nights ago. Now, do you mostly tour I would assume on the West Coast? Are you going to do any East Coast shows?
Yeah. We did a coast to coast tour in spring of 2018. So we have gone to the East Coast. The bulk of our touring is on the West Coast just because that's, easier to get to. But we're going to try and get back to the East Coast as soon as we can. I mean, we'll play anywhere that people want us to, and a lot of places that they'd rather we didn't. So
there's a couple places around here. One, Sellersville Theater, Sellersville, Pennsylvania,
just north of Philly,
and
cool.
A place called the Outpost in the Burbs. It's in Monmouth, New Jersey, and it's a church. It's an old church.
Cool.
Just west of New York City, then.
I mean, they have services there, but they also have concerts, and you actually sit in the pews.
Yeah, it's stone. It's if you love architecture like I do, I'm listening to the band. I'm like, oh wow, yeah, it's really beautiful.
Yeah,
that's cool. I love playing in interesting old places like that, and I mean, we tour as much as we can, and obviously the last year and a half it's been difficult. We had to cancel a lot of dates. But we tour all over the place. We've gone to Europe 3 times, I think, on tour with this band, and across the U.S. and all over the West Coast. We took a short trip to Iceland right before the pandemic.
Wow. Yeah,
shows in Reykjavik, Alaska. We had to cancel an Alaska tour, which really sucked.
Yeah. But now we're getting ready to jump on with Charlie Crockett, so that would be cool to do some Southwest shows.
Great.
Yeah, suddenly out of nowhere. 2 weeks ago, we had a couple shows regionally planned, and now we're ramping up to leave for 2 months, and something like 40 shows or 50 shows or something.
Wow.
So I mean, it all happened really fast.
Yeah. Got to stay healthy for that.
And I'm glad we got you today.
Yeah.
To talk to you.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be pretty busy.
Yeah.
I think after this week.
So I know we appreciate your time, and we know that you're woke up by now telling these stories. So we want to do some trivia with you guys. It is going to be Jenny against Jim. So it's Jimbo against Jenny. And I know. Are you guys ready for this? So here's the way it's going to be. It's I'm counting the points. It's going to be 10 total questions, 5 each. And if Kelly does, if Jenny doesn't know, Kelly is the backup. Okay. And then if you don't get it, just like any other game show, the opposing person gets to steal the point. It's multiple choice, 5 questions, multiple choice. So I do it random. I want you to tell me who's going first. Kelly first, Jenny or Jim?
I don't know. If I had a coin,
I'm saying this so I know, I didn't set up the questions, to have Jim.
The Spurs button right here, okay?
All right.
Heads or tails?
Tails.
Heads or tails?
Tails.
Tails. Okay, so you get the
poker.
Yeah, the pin side of the button, and Jenny gets the Spurs side. Okay. Pin side up. So I guess it's your.
Okay.
All right.
Jim's first.
All right. So this is from a source that is doing mostly 60s and 70s rock and roll. So that's our category.
Okay.
Yeah. No Portland punk questions in this book. So, Jim, are you ready?
Yes.
In what country was George Ivan Van Morrison born? Russia, Northern Ireland, or Scotland?
I know he's Irish, so Northern Ireland.
You got it. All right, we got a point for Jim here. All right, Jenny, you ready?
Yep.
In what Broadway musical did Davy Jones perform before becoming a monkey? Jesus Christ Superstar, Oliver, or West Side Story?
Do you know that song?
And then Kelly can be your backup.
Neither one of us know it. I'm gonna go with A.
No.
Yeah. What are you gonna say? West Side Story?
Yeah, I'd say West Side Story.
Okay, West Side Story.
Oh, okay. Jim for the steal.
I was gonna say.
I knew that one.
Oliver. Jim gets another one there. Okay, all right. There's lots of time to catch up. All right, Jim. Keith Moon died in the same apartment that another famous rocker had died 4 years prior. Who was that star? Mama Cass Elliot, Brian Jones, or Jim Morrison?
Well, it wasn't Jim Morrison because he died in Paris.
Okay.
In a bathtub, I think.
I'm
going to say Mama Cass.
Mama Cass. You got it. Oh, this is tough. This is 2 against 1. Jim was talking trash too earlier. I got to tell you that, but just with the 2-1 thing, I said, just go for it. Just go for it.
You're gonna win. Okay. We're terrible at trivia.
Well, it's 3-0, Jimbo. Let's see what happens here. This one should be a good one. Jenny.
Okay.
Cesar and Cleo was an earlier name for which performers? Cesar and Cleo. Was it Simon and Garfunkel, Sonny and Cher, or Sam and Dave?
I think that one's Sonny and Cher.
Final answer?
Yep.
You got it.
Nice.
All right.
I got one.
I wasn't sure whether to put this next question on because I just don't know how many people know this one. Jim, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Stevland Morris Hardaway is the real or birth name for which of the following? Steve Miller, Stevie Wonder, or Otis Redding?
I'm going to guess Stevie Wonder.
Stevie Wonder. You got it. All right. All right. Halfway through here. More than halfway through. Jenny, for what television show did in the 70s, did Love and Spoonful leader John Sebastian sing the theme song? So again, it's John Sebastian theme song, TV. The Jeffersons, Welcome Back, Kotter, or The Love Boat?
The Love Boat.
No.
Does Kelly know?
No, Kelly's thinking something else there.
Okay,
the Jeffersons.
Not The Love Boat.
The
Love
Boat. Welcome Back, Kotter.
Okay,
yeah, you got it. All right, Kelly helps you out. Let me keep score here. It looks like it's 4-2, and I must have missed one. I did miss one. I got to go back here. All right, whose is this now? This is Jim. Yep. Boy, I hope that didn't change fate. Me missing one of those questions there. All right, Jim. Mm-hmm. 3 Dog Night question. Oh. For which group did Three Dog Night leader Danny Hutton audition unsuccessfully for before forming his new
I think
band?
I can answer that before you ask me.
Well, you go ahead and do that.
I'll probably be wrong. The Monkees.
Oh, you got it without the choices. I didn't know
Three Dog
that.
Night Band.
Yeah. The other choices that are wrong are the Standells and the Grassroots. All right.
Yeah, we interviewed Chuck Negron
Oh, that was hilarious.
from Three Dog Night.
50,
Cool.
50 years of performing, and he's got some stories. Still doing it, too. Still playing guitar with his two daughters and
Cool.
producing some records. Yeah. Jenny, beer question.
Your
Oh, this might be good. You bartend.
Yeah, you're speaking my language.
Yeah, okay. After what beer did Creedence Clearwater Revival get their name? Take their name, acquire. What beer did Creedence Clearwater Revival name? Olympia, Hams, or Coors? Olympia, Hams, or Coors? I don't know if Kelly knows there.
I feel like I would have heard that if it was Olympia. Like nobody talks about that.
That's local.
Yeah, Hams Bear.
Never heard of Hams.
Hams has it's like the Hams Bear.
Well, the land of sky blue waters, so maybe ham.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Hams too.
Hams. Oh, no. Okay. And it's probably a better choice of two. I'm trying to hide my sheet from Jim here.
What was the answer? You can just say the answer.
No, you get to steal it.
Now you get
Say
Coors
Olympia.
or Olympia.
Yeah, so he said Olympia. So it is. It's Olympia. And Olympia is in Clearwater, Washington. And that's where Creedence gets their name from. Clearwater, Washington.
It's
One
in
of the states.
Tumwater.
Yeah, one of the states I haven't been to. Washington.
No, it's not Clearwater, Washington.
I don't know where they got Clearwater. I'll have to look that up.
It's Tumwater.
Yeah, they're in a town called Tumwater, Washington, is where that.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Wow.
The book's wrong.
Yeah, maybe the book is wrong. I think you're more likely to be correct than the book I took this from.
I don't know. We'll have to look that up.
That's
I just
Yeah.
know that Tumwater, Washington, for years, if you drove up I-5 through Olympia, Washington, Tumwater was right next door, and you could look out the car window and see the Ole plant right there, and that was in Tumwater, Washington. But
That's a good question, though. That's cool. I didn't know that.
Well, I don't know if it's right or not, right? Is there a Clearwater anywhere near there?
I've never heard of Clearwater, Washington. I mean,
Okay.
Let me look.
I'm a Washington native, so I don't know.
Yeah, I've never heard of Clear.
Yeah, we're
It's such a name. I bet every state has at least one Clearwater.
Yeah.
yeah, Springfield, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That is so interesting.
Well, it says Clearwater is an unincorporated community in western Jefferson County, Washington, by the Clearwater River.
I
But
don't
that's
think Jefferson County is where.
That's not near.
No,
Yeah.
Olympia is what, like county?
it's 85 miles away from.
All right.
Well,
I'm going to give you
Clearwater.
I'm going to give you a point for that. So we are 5-4 here. Jimbo's leading 5-4, and where was I? I was to Jim with the ninth question. This is a Cream question. The band.
Cream. Okay.
Why did Eric Clapton, Jack Bruce, and Ginger Baker call themselves Cream? Okay, it's 3 long answers here. They wanted a household word that people use daily. They considered themselves the, quote, cream of the crop. Or C, it was a shortened form of their original name, Crush Dream.
I don't know. B.
B is they considered themselves the cream of the crop. All right, you did get it. I thought that was so corny.
Yeah. I'm like, maybe it is the obvious. I don't know.
Well, no, because I think they were all English studio musicians, so they were like kind of the best of the best.
Yeah. All right, one last question. Jenny, in what country was the band Queen's leader, Freddie Mercury, born? And I did not know this.
Oh, I think I know that.
Oh, Jim wants to steal it already. Tanzania, or Tanzania, as they say, Austria, or Australia?
Oh, maybe I don't know.
I did not know this. So Tanzania, Austria, Australia.
We're going with Tanzania.
Yeah, you got it.
I was thinking Cuba.
I wouldn't have picked Tanzania.
For some reason, I thought thought he was what's the big island? Madagascar or somewhere.
I thought he was Cuban.
Yeah, well,
I knew he was born in Africa, like to colonial family or something.
Yeah.
You know. But for some reason I thought it was like Mauritania or Madagascar or something.
Cool. Well, thanks for that.
Yeah, awesome.
I just would have guessed somewhere in Europe. I wouldn't have gone to Tanzania. He was born Frederick Bulsara, Bulsara, Frederick Bulsara. That's a pretty cool name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before we go, where can everybody get your new album? You have a website.
Bandcamp.
Right?
We have. Yep.
Okay.
You could go to our website, JennyDon'tAndTheSpurs.com. It's also on Bandcamp, iTunes. You can hear it on Spotify. We've got it uploaded on YouTube if you don't have Spotify. Apple Music, I believe.
Yeah, we listen to Apple.
Okay.
All the things. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully it's on all the platforms.
I think Kelly will probably have a couple uploaded on Discogs.
I'm kind of disappointed. I collect vinyl. Not as much as you do.
Yeah.
I have like 250 albums.
Yeah.
But I love the color vinyl, the splatter, but I'm kind of disappointed I didn't get in there to get your splatter vinyl.
Yeah.
You're not going to make
we
any more,
almost didn't.
right? Is that?
Yeah, we didn't even get ours. So
Yeah, so we're going to do a
Wow.
He already has a repress going, and they'll have some another chance for some colored vinyl.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very cool. Very cool.
for vinyl fans, we have a new single that's coming out, a 2-song single with songs that don't appear anywhere else. We had hoped it was going to be out for this tour, but that's not going to happen. It's probably going to come out later in the summer. But there's an edition of 100 of those on, I think it's red vinyl.
Okay.
So those will be available on our Bandcamp when it appears, or Discogs.
I have the Christmas one. I think that's.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And your outfit is great on that, Jenny.
Thanks.
Love the outfit.
Thanks.
So
Hey, I bought all that Christmas stuff at Home Depot, and then I returned
There
it
you go.
after that picture.
Love their policy.
Thank you guys so much for your time. I know it was early. We all had our coffee, and great meeting both of you virtually. And I hope our listeners gain some more knowledge of Jenny Don't and the Spurs.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
we'll
thank
see you
you.
in your town soon. So
yes.
Take care.
Bye.
All right, thanks.
Bye.
Lady bird, come on down. I'm here waiting on the ground. Lady bird, I'll treat you good. Oh, lady bird, I wish you were. Lady bird, pretty lady bird.
Lightning flashed across the sky. The night he taught me how to fly. The sun came up, and then I found too soon he let his lady down. His lady bird, yeah, I'm his lady bird.
Today's interview was recorded on Zoom and at Did You Say
7
Studios in Washington, New Jersey. Go to the YouTube channel for exclusive video content. Exit music by the band 99%. Today's show was produced and edited by Jim Thatcher. You can find Jim and Mike talk music on Apple Music, Spotify, Podbean, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
The songs Train Ticket, Friday Night, California Cowboy, and Ladybird, used with permission from Jenny and Kelly of Jenny Don't And The Spurs.